these are the anions. Okay, so same things. So and you have here anions are getting exchanged with the OH minus ions. Let us try to see the reaction. Look here, ROH2 twice plus H2CO3 is going to give RCO3 plus 2 times water. Okay, then we have ROH twice plus 2 times HCl, then gives RCl2 plus 2 times water. Okay, then we have ROH2, that is R hydroxide, plus, it means this is what, these all are the acidic water contents. Okay, whatever acid is present into the water that is coming out of your cation exchange resins, that has to be processed with the help of the second tower. Second tower consists of your anion exchange resins. Okay, you can see the reaction very clearly. What happens here, you have here RCO3, okay, plus 2 times water. Then we have here RCl2 plus 2 times water. Then we have here R is going to react with the sulfate, so RSO4 plus 2 times water. It is essential to balance the equations. If you see here clearly, all the atoms on right hand side and left hand side should be balanced very clearly. Let us try to proceed ahead. Finally, after passing through both the towers, that is cation exchange tower and anion exchange tower, what we are getting is the pure water, okay, that is free from acidic and other impurities. So both the cation and anion exchange resins are playing equally important role in processing our water from hard to soft water. Okay, let us try to move ahead. Now see, there are chances that your cation exchange resins may get exhausted after some hours of the working. Okay, so in that case, regeneration of the resin plays equally important role. Care has to be taken to regenerate the resin, otherwise we may not get the quality of the soft water. Let us try to understand how the resin, that is cation exchange resins, can be regenerated. It is very simple and economic, nothing more. You take a dilute HCl and pass into the cation exchange exhausted resin. Okay, so what will happen whenever you are passing your HCl into cation exchanger tower, then your cation exchanger resin will get regenerated. For that, you can see clearly here the reactions. Take a look on the reactions. What is happening in the regeneration process for your ion exchange resins? So for this reason, if you see very clearly, ion exchange process regeneration, whenever you are regenerating your cation exchange resins, then you are adding actually HCl to cation exchanger bed. So we have RCA plus 2 times HCl, that is going to give RH2 plus CaCl2. Okay, same way you have RMg plus 2 times HCl, that is going to give RH2 plus MgCl2. Okay, this one has to keep in mind. Similarly, your anion exchanger resin, let us try to understand how we can regenerate this anion exchanger. Look here, exhausted anion exchange resin can be regenerated by passing dilute alkaline solution like NaOH or KOH in second tower. It means what? You are regenerating your anion exchanger resin with the help of sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide by adding it into the second tower. This is going to regenerate your anion exchange resin. Let us try to understand how the regeneration of anion exchanger occurs. Look here, the second reaction for anion exchangers, you have Cl and sulfate, that is chlorides and sulfate. These are the anions. Okay, so what happens here? RCl2, this is exhausted anion exchanger and this is exhausted cation exchanger. If you see here, RCl2 plus 2 times NaOH, that is you are adding sodium hydroxide. Okay, that is going to give ROH twice plus 2 times NaCl. Same thing here, RSO4 plus 2 times NaOH, that is going to give ROH twice plus plus Na2SO4. So this process, if you see here very clearly, your resin is generated back. Okay, so this is the entire regeneration of the resin. Let us try to summarize the process. That is, we have seen here very clearly that finally what is actually the starting point of the ion exchange process. It is having two towers, that is cylindrical towers, which will consist of two types of resin. If you see in the diagram, that is cation exchanger bed and anion exchanger bed. Okay, and finally what will happen? Cation exchanger resins will be capable of exchanging cations of hard water by H plus ions, and similarly anion exchanger resins are capable of exchanging anions of hard water by OH minus ions. Okay, you can see here finally we get soft water after passing through both cation and exchanger towers. These things has to be kept in mind. We have seen the regeneration. Okay, cation exchanger resins can be regenerated by adding dilute HCl, and similarly anion exchanger resins can be regenerated by adding sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide in second tower. Let us try to summarize what is permutate and ion exchange process. I have made a small summary on these two processes. If we have seen that permutate process, actually it exchanges only cation. Okay, so this one has to remember. Acidic water cannot be treated with the permutate process because it may damage our permutate bed. Then we have dissolved salt concentration of treated water is higher than that of untreated water. Okay, and due to this reason what happens? Chances of priming and foaming in boiler may arise. Okay, so this one has to keep in mind. Second thing is about ion exchange process. That is similarly you can put the comparison of both the process. That is, if you see clearly here, ion exchange process exchanges anions and cations both. Okay, here acidic water can be treated. In case of permutate, acidic water cannot be treated, but for ion exchange process acidic water can be treated. Okay, similarly dissolved salt concentration of treated water is less than that of untreated water, so no problem of priming and foaming in boiler arises. So what is the comparison? If you see here in the both summary, it exchanges only cation, while ion exchange it exchanges cations and anions both. Acidic water cannot be treated. Here acidic water can be treated. Okay, dissolved salt concentration of treated water is higher than that of untreated water. If you see here, dissolved salt concentration of the treated water is less than that of the untreated water, so no priming and foaming in the boiler. But in case of permutate, there are chances of the priming and foaming in the boiler. We have also seen there are many drawbacks with the permutate process, that if there are colored ions present in the hard water, then what happens? There are chances of regeneration of the permutate process becomes very difficult. Then what other drawbacks were there? In case of permutate process, if we use acid, if the water, hard water is containing mineral acid, then the damage of the permutate may happen. So these were the drawbacks. Another thing that one has to remember using permutate process is we should not use the turbid hard water. If we will use turbid hard water, then the problem of this permutate will get clotted, and hence the process cannot be carried out successfully. Okay, you can see here very clearly what are the processes that are used as below. Screening process, we can see to purify our drinking water. Okay, in order to purify the drinking water, we can do one thing, that is screening, sedimentation, coagulation, filtration, disinfection. These all are the processes that are basically employed, okay, for purifying the water. So how we can do this process in a stepwise manner? Let us try to understand it. Screening. It is process of removing floating materials from water. Okay, what we are doing, screen is like you are removing some floating materials that are present on the surface of water, and for that reason water is allowed to pass through screens having large number of pores. Okay, this one has to remember. So these screens are something like that are going to having pore size will be different, so according to that all the impurities, or you can say floating materials, will get sorted out on the basis of the pore size that it will contain. Okay, so screening is simply the removal of floating materials from the water surface. Sedimentation. Sedimentation is a process of removing suspended impurities, okay, by allowing water to stay undisturbed for some time in a large tanks when most of the suspended particles settle down due to gravity force. If you see here in the diagram, you will get more idea. Look here in the diagram, here is a water that is containing insoluble impurities. Okay, what you are doing, you are allowing this water to settle for a few hours. Okay, and after that you will see very clearly that all the insoluble impurities that is going to get basically settled down at the end of water, and the pure water or clear water is going to be getting pumped out with the help of the pumps. Okay, this has to be done with very carefully so that the impurity settle down due to gravity should not again mix up with the clear water. So this is the sedimentation process. Now you can see here all the suspended impurities by allowing the water to stay undisturbed for some time in large tanks, and when most of the suspended particles settle down due to gravity force. Let us try to understand what is coagulation process. Okay, these all are the processes that are used to purify the water or to make our drinking water in the pure form. It is the process of removing colloidal particles from water by adding certain chemicals. Okay, so coagulation is what? Process of removing colloidal particles from water by adding certain chemicals. Clear? So what happens when you are adding these chemicals? Let us try to understand it. Chemicals added are called coagulants. Okay, these coagulants react with bicarbonates present in water and form bulky gelatinous precipitate which settle down quickly. So what is going to happen? Let us try to understand in the diagram. In the coagulation, what happens? There are certain particles. Okay, suppose like if I have here, this is my water. Okay, there are certain impurities, or you can say certain particles which are not ready to set. Then what will happen? You are going to add here coagulants. So coagulants are added here, and what will happen when you are adding this coagulant? At that time what will happen? These particles, okay, that coagulant is going to combine with these particles, or that is bicarbonates present into the water, and they are going to form a bulky precipitate, that is a big bulky precipitate. This kind of this big, you can say here, bulky precipitate is formed. Okay, so this bulky PPT, what will happen? This precipitate is going to, due to heavier weight, okay, it is going to now settle down here. Okay, so this is the role of the coagulant in the process, that it is useful to form bulky precipitate by reaction with the bicarbonates present in water, and finally this bulky precipitate will settle down at the water and we can quickly remove it from the water. Okay, so this is the role of the coagulant in the process. Now you can see here, chemicals added are called coagulants. This coagulant react with bicarbonates present in water and form bulky gelatinous precipitate which settle down quickly. Look here, what are the coagulants that can be used here? If you see very clearly, aluminum sulfate, alum, ferrous phosphate, all these are the examples of the coagulant that are used here in the process. Okay, so these aluminum sulfate is going to react with our bicarbonates and going to finally form the hydroxides, and hydroxides are basically your bulky precipitates, and hence due to heavier weight they are going to settle and can be easily removed. Filtration technique, as you all are very aware what is this filtration technique. This is one of the most simplest technique that can be used here. Okay, it is process of removing insoluble colloidal and bacterial impurities by passing water through bed of proper sized material. Clear? So what you are doing, you are trying to remove insoluble colloidal particles or bacterial impurities by passing water through bed of proper sized materials. This one has to remember. You can see here sterilization of water. Let us try to understand what are the techniques that are used to sterilize our water. You can see here boiling, chlorination, ozonation, aeration, ultraviolet rays. Okay, these all are the techniques that are used to sterilize our water. Okay, so now let us try to understand the first process, that is boiling process. Simple thing that is about boiling is, you have a water and you try to boil it. Okay, what happens? Your germs, your bacteria will get killed. This is your boiling process, and you are ensuring that there is no germs now present into the water. So simple boiling can also try to prevent many problems and impurities that are harmful to the health by just simple techniques, and very economic. At home you can do this process easily. Let us try to understand the second technique, that is chlorination. Chlorination is done, you can see here there are two ways of doing this chlorination. Okay, chlorination is done by directly passing gas, that is chlorine gas, into water. Okay, now what you are doing, you have a suppose water, okay, in tanks. You have seen that their municipalities arranging to pass directly chlorine gas into water, so that all the domestic water supplies are free from the germs. Now what is happening, you are passing chlorine gas directly into water. It reacts with water to form hypochlorous acid and nascent oxygen. They themselves are very powerful, and both of them act as a germicides.